Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chiscool Gaming, and in today's video we're going to talk about the best way to get stats, because when you look at one of these reports with these whales that are slamming a bunch of maxed out stuff, I wish I could spend like that, but I can't. Nope, I'm personally not gonna do it. But where do I spend? Where do I spend to get the most bang for my buck? P.S. Shout out Cherry Picker in RTZ. Legend. Okay, so I wanted to break it down because I was thinking about how to improve my account, and so I'll give it to you in priority order because, gosh, there sure is a lot that you can drop some cash or frost stars on. Best bang for your buck is going generally for what? Now, you're going to need to find the bundles that give you the best percent value, and as I'm sure you know, the bundle contents get better as your state ages, which is something that I hadn't seen in other games before and is really neat. But let's get in order here of the best ways to gain punch, whether it's in Gen 1 or Gen whatever, okay? And we're going to start with heroes. Heroes, and specifically stars and widgets, are the best way to gain fast punch. The weirdness of hero, stars, and widgets is that these are time limited. That's why they give the most for the level of effort it takes to get them. They are only good until some new generation of heroes shows up, and when that happens, the new heroes might just be better depending on the widget and the sort of situation you're optimizing for. That's not always true. The skills and the combinations sometimes make a big difference, but I think the point generally stands that if you want to get a ton of stats, man, check it out. Like, this is a Gen 6 hero. I got a ton of attack, defense, lethality, health. I get that I have gear on, so even if I take all that gear off, okay, 540 attack, 540 defense is a big deal. I haven't done his widget very much yet, which is why the lethality and health are very low. If I go look at a lower generation hero, and we'll just get a peek at that real quick. We could do my boy Zinman over here, okay? Like, 180 attack, 180 defense, 20 lethality and health. The point that I'm making here is that the fastest way to stats, not necessarily the most efficient over time, but the fastest way to stats now is going to be heroes, it's going to be the stars, and as I mentioned, it's the widget. Now, the widget is giving both lethality and health, but also it gives a bonus in the expedition. That's if you're defending your city or rallying or defending a structure on the map or fighting on the map. It gives a benefit that is a multiplier to all your other stats. This is huge, okay? I cannot overstate the power of having a multiplier on all of your stats. I feel like it's pretty obvious. But again, the downside is that you end up spending some number of hundreds of dollars on a widget, and you got to spend some amount of mythic generals to max out a hero. They are ephemeral. They will last only for a moment in time. Sure, you can use them again when you're sending out multiple marches, doing things like Frostfire Mine, etc. But you got to keep in mind, biggest stats you can get, temporary. But you know what's not temporary? Hero gear. This is probably the best permanent way to get a bunch of stats, especially the earlier in the game you are, the more true I think this is, because there's less things that you have to go and do, and you can push the gear a ton. The hero gear goes a very, very, very long way. A maxed out piece here can give, as you see, 300% health for this piece, plus I've got 30% inf attack and 50% inf defense, and that's just on this one piece. Now, I had to do a lot to get this piece to this point, using mithril and a whole bunch of other things, but I only need to do that piece once, and I have it, and as long as I'm got it equipped to the march that I'm running around, I'm always going to have those. The generations of heroes will change, and when the time comes, I'll unequip my gear and put it on the new gen. Okay, and wait, what was the power amount there? 14.5 million power. Yeah, it's not a small amount of power. All right, it is not a small amount of power. Now that comes from obviously the level of the gear. That comes from the enhancement all the way up to using your mithril and also the mastery forging. Your big bottleneck here is going to be mithril and mythic pieces. You'll have to trust me, they become a major bottleneck. Now you're going to need to do this for 3 different troop types. You've got your infantry, you've got your marksmen, and you've got your lancers. I generally think working on 1 set of each is better than spreading around all your stuff. For something like arena, which, like, okay, if you spread it around, it's better for arena, but when you need that one best thing you can possibly do, I think your dollars best go to this and the hero gear projects. From there, the exact ordering here, I think, is debatable, and there's a couple different directions you can go that are major. I want to start in the direction of pointing to charms. Charms are a major source of stats. You can see here my infantry charms are maxed for what's available to me. That's level 11, 165% lethality and health. Health is very difficult to get. This is a big deal. My general understanding is that you want attack and lethality to be as close as possible, defense and health to be as close as possible, and if your health was like really high, you'd really want to push up your defense, and point for point you'd get more from defense. Most people have a higher defense or attack rating, so pushing up their lethality ends up being the best bang for the buck. But I think that charms are probably your next big area of optimization. Things are going to get really weird around this level, where a charm upgrade from level 6 and beyond is going to require basically this more or less the same amount of charm designs, but then the charm guides go up and up and up and up and up. And the game design here is really interesting. I mean, it gives you lots of guides from events and bundles, and what you need is these, and then later on, well, you'll have to go out of your way to get a bunch of charm designs to eat up the guides that you've got. Theoretically, later on, there's an exchange you can do as well. Okay. From here, what do I think is probably the next best thing? And I probably would get a look at pets. Pets, especially the pet skills, are major. Okay? Pet skills are going to give you percent multipliers. They are temporary, but OMG, they are huge. Okay, so for 2 hours, you can absolutely slam. And, you know, then, well, yeah, it is what it is. So, you have what you have. But this is a huge boost. Like, how often can you go in, right, and just get another multiplier? This is like a widget, but sticks with your account, but is only for the 2 hour window. I really like pets for this. And you'll notice that the pet also gives a bunch of attack and defense as you're leveling it up. So, you know, this one is, I've got a level 100 legendary, although the skill isn't maxed out yet, but it's up to 31.46 attack and defense. And that's for all troop types, which is pretty cool. Stats for all troop types are better than they, I think, would seem. All right. Now, from here, there's so many different directions we can go, but I haven't covered research yet, and I think this is a good one. Early on, you're going to run into issues of steel being a bottleneck. Eventually, that will not be the case, but research is an amazing way to get stats. I still have to finish off some of my research. It takes a lot of speed ups, but there aren't the same bottlenecks like you have for other things, right? Like mithril or mythic gear. The bottleneck does not exist here in that same way. Eventually, you will have more than enough steel to do the things you need to go and do. And when that happens, speed ups here are a pretty solid way to get some stats. All right. So I think this is important to mention. Again, I don't know if I'm getting the order perfectly, but when I look at my account, I'm like, what could I do? This is a great outlet for speed ups. Now, there'll be a point where that's not the case and I'm almost out of stuff to upgrade and I need to maybe slow my roll a little bit because, you know, once you've done all your research, then this building sits idle and is doing nothing. So like the speeding it up is really valuable until, now it's like you've got an idle building. You sort of lost the equivalent of free speed ups, right? If this runs all year long, you get a free year worth of speeds every year, except it's not sped up. It's just, cooking. It's cooking up upgrades. So you always want this cooking up and upgrade. Great. Let's go on to the next thing here. All right. We covered widgets and stars. We talked about hero gear. We talked about charms. We talked about pet skills. Let's talk, I think, about experts. And I do need to give a shout out to Beeps from my alliance. He influenced this ordering. We had a really great conversation about this. So shout out Beeps. I should have put this at the start of the vid. Experts are a pretty decent way to get stats, but it's actually not crazy. Obviously, 30% attack and 30% defense and 40% left in health. That's lovely. And the deploy cap, this is all really good. But compared to the hero gear, it's not even the same universe. Compared to the charms, I feel like it's not there, right? So the thing about the experts is that although working on them will get you stats, and you do have a universalist combat expert Romulus, which can get you stats, and at some point you'll have to debate, do I spend this minute of speed ups on research, or do I spend this minute of speed ups on Romulus skills? It all is going to depend on your account, all right? They are giving stats as well, as you can see from over here. Those are in the stat totals. So I think experts are a pretty decent way to gain some stats. But it's funny, I was looking at this and I was like, wait, experts ain't it. That's not the way that I'm going to get a whole bunch of stats fast. Not really. I'm just going to go set up some idle trekking here. Does anybody know, by the way, does idle trekking get you as good results as auto trekking but manually picking? You let me know. I don't know if it does. I'm worried it might not, in which case I shouldn't be doing that. I should actually look at it and make the choices. But whatever. Let's talk about the next thing on the list, and that's the chief gear. Now, you may wonder, Chisco, why is chief gear so low on your list? And that is because most people, I think, have a lot of attack. They have a lot of defense. And so, because you get so much of that from your heroes, you can work on these, and the beauty of it is that they apply to all your marches, but more stats per dollar, I think, are going to fly from the hero gear than the chief gear by a long shot. Now, one thing I have unintentionally neglected is actually pets. And you've seen me many times over go in and buy a bunch of common wild marks with gems during events. And I talked about the pet skills, but I didn't actually talk about the pet refinement giving stats. These stat boosts end up being a really big deal. Here's how much it's adding up for me. So this is obviously giving me way more than what I'm getting from experts. So this would go above experts. This would go above chief gear. This goes pretty high up the list. I've got 182 left, 190 health, 178 Lancer left and health, 190 marksman left, 183 marksman health. And holy moly, 239 attack and defense. Now that's coming in part from working toward the pet skills, but the point I'm making here is that you actually get a nice chunk from pets. The challenge is that it's easiest to get stats the lower your refinement is. The higher your refinement gets, the harder it is to get stats. You got to start using the advanced wild marks. Those are very difficult to come by. Someone was telling me that you're looking at $2,500 worth of these advanced wild marks to max out a pet. Okay, I don't know, man. I haven't actually done the math. I don't know what it is. But I will say this. It ain't cheap. So I'm told. So the good news is that the weaker your pets are, the faster you'll gain stats with common wild marks. So spread them around. That is a great outlet for gems. Do it during an event that will reward you disproportionately, typically during the holidays. A+ opportunity to go and do that. All right. And I think one of the final places to push power for the dollar spend is going to be your island. Now, the stats here can be pretty crazy, but the problem is that it's expensive. It's really expensive compared to all the other ways you get stats. The thing about it, though, is that this is a very, very, very difficult thing to catch up with. Once you fall behind on your island, if you're a top tier player, it gets weird. There's not an easy way to go and do this. You're going to need to get a bunch of the universal mythic general decoration components. It's going to take a lot of them. What I was advised is if you really want to be a spender and be competitive but not be insano maxed, getting these to level 7 is the way to go. So this is the thing I spend the least on. Maybe it's a mistake, but for whatever it's worth, I'm not trying to be the main rally lead, and this is pretty pricey, right? For the stats. Now, that said, you max out a deco, and it is attack for all troop types, right? So, you know, that's 10% inf attack, 10% lance attack, 10% marksman attack. So maxing one of these represents 30% of stats. So maybe, I don't know, it feels pricey for what you get, but maybe in a way it isn't. It does ramp up dramatically in terms of the cost. As you level these things up, the amount that you need is going up and up and up. So you can see, you know, to go from 6 to 7 is going to take me 7 of these. So that extra 1% of stats is costing more and more and more and more. So the lower your decos are, the more economical it is to progress them. And maybe I'm making a mistake not progressing them more. But certainly from the standpoint of I want stats right now, it ain't going to come from decos. In my opinion, that's not fast stats. So I think that covers just about every primary way of getting stats. Obviously, your War Academy, super relevant. When you unlock this, there's more stats to be had here. But, you know, obviously troop tier is really important. That's not what the point of this video is. The point is, how can I get more stats fast? I suppose we can include in the list over here in the monument, your puzzle pieces here, okay, which I should be giving these away and pay more attention to this. But yeah, you know, you get a few stats over here, but this is it's almost nothing, man. And they're not, to my knowledge, multiplicative. It's just, you know, well, that one's not even stats anyways. It's gathering speed. What do we got here? 2% attack. All right. It ain't much, but it's honest work, and it keeps me busy at times. All right. I think we did it. Every way to get stats prioritized, almost every way anyways. And I think we got through them all. I suppose you could say being in an alliance and having facilities is a way you can get stats. That's also true. You could also say that being in proximity to a globe, that's true. Okay, true. That is a way to get stats. But if we run it from the top, heroes, stars, and widgets. From there, hero gear. From there, probably charms. From there, pet skills. From there, it might also then be pet skills, or not skills, stats, pet refinement. I'm recording this late at night. You'll have to bear with me. From there, we were looking at experts and then chief gear. The order of those, again, a little bit debatable. And then the island. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Holy smokes. A lot going on. You enjoyed the vid? Throw a like on here, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm sure people have put more thought into this than I have, but that's kind of where my head's at right now for getting fast stats. Yeah. So when I look at bundles, something like this gets really compelling. I kind of wish the balance was more shifted away from XP components and into the lucky hero gear chest, because like, man, do I need mythic pieces. But that's topic for a separate video. I covered that in depth over here. Hero gear. Check the vid. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.